Alright guys, Will Not the Turf Grass Guy here, and I was just driving back from Savannah, so I had a little bit of time to think in the car. My radio doesn't work, um, so when I'm in my car, I'm pretty much just in my head, thinking, and I think that I want to do more videos talking, um, whether it be about my past or just golf course maintenance in general. And I was really thinking on the way home about how to go about talking. I use social media to be more of an outgoing person than I really am. I don't think a lot of people realize that a lot of content creators are actually really introverted people. Um, I'm kind of shy. I know you guys might not think that, but I've struggled with anxiety my whole life. So for me to get on social media and talk to thousands of people on a regular basis, to some people might seem ludicrous. But for me, it's kind of like therapy. It gives me opportunity to put things out there into the world that are going on in my head. Um, and it's free therapy for me. But I was thinking about my whole entire career in golf course maintenance and all the different eclectic people that I've ran into over the years, and I really could solely do a series on all the people that I've worked with over the years, however short it may be. They've left some kind of lasting impact on my life. Um, and there's just so many stories. I can remember when I first started in golf course maintenance. Some of you might not know this, but this is the only thing I've ever done. I think I worked at a pizza place for about 4 hours straight out of high school. I went into the pizza place and was nervous as hell. I'd never had a job before. I didn't know what I was getting into. The guy told me to pretty much go in the corner and start folding pizza boxes. Well, of course, I didn't have a clue how to fold a pizza box. I'm horrible at wrapping presents and doing stuff like that. So I'm over there like pulling my hair out trying to figure out how to fold these pizza boxes. And next thing I know, I hear an explosion in the kitchen, and I go into the kitchen, and apparently there was some guy that was there, like a maintenance guy that was doing maintenance on the pizza oven, and when he lit the pilot light or whatever, it blew up on him. So I'm in this strange pizza place that's ran by this guy from I don't remember where he was. He was not from Italy. He was from somewhere in the Middle East. Anyways, so the guy comes running out with his hair literally on fire and singed. And I mean, everything in the kitchen at this point is covered in ashes and black stuff. So he's immediately, this guy runs out, says he needs an ambulance. He's going to go to the hospital. And um, so everybody starts wiping down all this stuff, and I'm just like, man, this is not for me. I don't know what I'm doing here. I really would like to leave. And sure as shit, he told me to leave. He said he's got too many people here right now, so he was going to call me back later and come in later. So I took the t-shirt and I hauled ass, and I never went back to that pizza place. But they did call me like 100 times that night, so they were really desperate for some people. I was really young and dumb at the time, and I was not really interested in working. But to bring this back to my point, or to what I was originally talking about. This is the only thing I've ever done. I've only done golf maintenance. I got into golf maintenance because at the time, um, my parents had lost their business. My dad owned and operated a multi-million-dollar steel fabrication business for 25 plus years. Um, my parents had moved away from our hometown. Um, my father had eventually been indicted and gone to federal prison for money laundering and bank fraud. Um, and they had moved away from the area because the publicity and just people talk. So I was still living in that area. Um, I was not doing anything but getting high and pretty much wasting away. My parents at the time were living at the Landings. Um, if you know anything about the area, the Landings is a private golf community on Skidaway Island. It has, I believe, 6 courses, um, phenomenal courses, really top tier stuff. The Club Car Championship is actually hosted at the course that I originally started at. Um, I was originally hired out there by Barry Ruiz, who is the golf course superintendent currently at Champions Retreat in Augusta, which basically hosts the women's event before the Masters. Um, so I went into that not knowing anything other than I pretty much grew up on 25 acres. I ran a lawnmower, just your basic lawnmower that was not designed for 25 acres, and pretty much our property was centipede around the house, and then the rest of it was Bahia. I would mow all week long. Pretty much when I finished one half of the yard, the other half would be grown back. If you know anything about Bahia grass, the seed heads pop up literally overnight. Um, but that was my only real experience with running a lawnmower or anything to do with grass. We had sand spurs and everything else, God knows, weeds everywhere in the yard. You couldn't even walk barefooted without coming home with picking sand spurs and everything else out of your feet. But we lived barefooted. Like, that's all we did. We played sun up, sundown barefooted. And but I'm all over the place. But I went into that not knowing anything. Barry took me around. He's a very, if you know Barry Ruiz, he's a very no bullshit, serious guy. And he took me around the property. He showed me all the equipment, and he said, "Does this look like something you could handle?" And I was scared shitless, and of course not. It didn't look like anything I could handle. I didn't know anything about golf. I didn't know anything about grass. I didn't know there was greens. I didn't know there was approaches. I didn't know there was fairways or tees. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But I told him, yeah, of course I could handle that. And I remember coming in to this tiny little break room. I want to say this was in February when it was really cold out. And if you've worked in golf maintenance or worked outdoors anywhere, then you got to layer up. You got to wear all kinds of layers. You got to wear stocking hat. You got to wear whatever to keep you warm when you're out there. And everybody was wearing that stuff. And I walked in, and there was probably about 10 other guys in the break room already, and they were all head to toe decked out in warm stuff to stay warm. And I'm pretty sure at that point I thought I was the only American that was on the crew. Turns out there was a couple, I think maybe 4 other guys that weren't Hispanic, and which is crazy now because it's the complete opposite in the industry for us in our area. where I'm at now, it's primarily Americans and a couple of Hispanic guys. Whereas when I started in this industry back in 2004, it was like 15 Hispanic guys to 4 white guys. Um, but yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know how I'm even going to talk to these people because I didn't know any Spanish hardly. Um, and I remember my first assignment that day, was they took me and 2 other guys that did not speak English, and they're like, we're going to be redoing a bunker. So they took me to the practice facility, and there was a bunker at the back of the range, and they're like, you're going to take all this sand out of this bunker and remove it, and we're going to put all new sand in it and everything. And that was my first day of golf maintenance, was busting my ass shoveling sand out of a bunker and redoing that bunker. I went on to work at that particular course for about 7 years until my drinking and drugging got to the point that I just wasn't showing up anymore. And they eventually let me go. Um, but man, there I ran into so many interesting people, and learned a lot about golf maintenance in those first few years. Um, but at the same time, I learned nothing. Like I didn't really fall in love with this industry until years down the road. I struggled a long time with my mental health and my addiction. Um, and at, at some point, I was going through a bad relationship. I got someone pregnant that hated my guts. Um, and it was a hard 2 or 3 years. Probably 2 or 3 of the hardest, worst years of my life. Trying to be in my daughter's life and not being able to be in my daughter's life. Um, that's that shit killed me. It still kills me to this day. I have a wonderful relationship now, with my daughter and with my daughter's mom. Um, but early on, man, there was times I did not think I was going to make it. And it took me going to jail multiple times. It took me throwing away hundreds of thousands of dollars. It took court appearances. It took treatment. It took um, breathalyzers in my house, breathalyzers in my car. It took all this stuff for me to realize that I was the problem and that nothing was ever going to change or get any better if I continued to go down the path that I was going. Um, and it wasn't until I got sober and clear headed that I realized how much I loved this industry and loved golf maintenance. And it wasn't until then that I really fell in love with it and that I wanted to learn anything and everything that I could about it. I think I spent an entire year just going around the golf course. Any weed that I would see, I would take a picture of it. I would look it up. I would try and figure out what was causing it, how we could get rid of it. um, and I just kind of obsessed over that stuff. um, and I'm still not 100% where I want to be in this industry, but man, I am so far from where I used to be, and I'm doing things today that I dreamed of doing. all I ever really wanted to do in this industry was eradicate weeds and spray chemicals, and I'm doing it. And to look back where I was at and where I'm at today is just, I can't even put it into words. There's, whatever you're going through in life, it's temporary. I know it doesn't seem like it. I know it seems like things are never going to get better, and they might not get better overnight, and they might not get better in a week, and they might not get better in a month or a year even. But holy shit, they get better if you put in the work and you just submit and surrender and just stop fighting yourself. Um, like I said, I don't know where this is going. I just felt like I needed to get on here and vent more, and talk more about my life and what I go through on a daily basis in this industry. I know sometimes just posting videos of mowing grass is not enough. There are days where it's enough. It's enough for people to see it and engage with it. But people want to, I want to be as transparent as possible for you guys. My phone is saying that more light is required. It's getting dark out here, so I'm gonna shut up. But this industry is so beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing. It's such a blessing to be able to wake up sober, clear-headed, not pissing and shitting and throwing up in the toilet every morning, driving to work, throwing up on yourself, being able to show up for work and be present, and being able to do what the day brings to you and feel good about yourself. you know there's a lot of shame that comes with drinking and drugging and mental health, and you know it's hard to get past that. But I can hold my head up high today, and I can be proud of where I am. And I just want people to know out there, if you're out there and you're struggling, it gets better. I promise. Have a great day, guys.